So today for my day in the life, it's dishes. Dishes are problematic. Mostly because I have this thing about the kitchen being dirty, and once the kitchen gets too dirty, then I can't bear to clean it because it's just overwhelming. Add to that a lack of energy, and you have a problem. So sometimes I can just okay, I need to suck it up and do the freaking dishes, which is what I'm doing this morning. I'm finding that I have more energy in the morning, but not early in the morning, more like somewhere around 8, 9 to about 2, and then I zone. So if I'm gonna get stuff done, I have to get it done relatively early so I have time to rest. Even if I can't nap. I completely forgot to introduce myself. I'm Emmie. And I have PKD, and I'm just talking about the things that go along with it, like being tired a lot. Some people don't get that. Those lucky people. I'm not one of those lucky people. I definitely got that. I also have serious PKD belly. I'm not sure if you can tell from what I'm wearing, which belly. So I do look a little pregnant. I'm not sure how you can be a little pregnant, but I look a little pregnant. And it's always a bit of a hassle to try to find clothes that fit right. So I took up sewing, and I've made really cutesy little things, empire waist dresses, swing dresses, just flowy tops, but not maternity tops, because I find maternity tops are too big. They're too big in the bust, even if they have the right sizing for my stomach. So, it's been, and I enjoy sewing. When I was in high school, I took a domestic arts class where you learn to cook and clean and sew and take child care. And my teacher, who was one of the loveliest women ever created, told me that I was simply not a domestic being. So there's a certain irony in the fact that I am a stay-at-home lady. When I had my kids eons and eons ago, I was a stay-at-home mom. And I really only was out in the workforce for about 5 years. And it became glaringly evident that I had a very hard time maintaining regular employment. That, although was, I guess, maybe not equal parts, but definitely in part, it was the fact that I'm bipolar, and at the time I was not diagnosed or treated, and so I would get stressed out really badly. I do a great job, and I want to do a great job so much that I would make myself literally sick. So after several months, usually 2 or 3, I had one job for 8 months, and that was the absolute longest. I got so sick that I ended up quitting, and that was what happened with every single job. I believe it was 14 jobs over a 5-year period, and after that, I applied for disability because I could not keep making myself sick on top of having a chronic illness. So I would make myself very sick. Well, not make myself, but I would get very sick. It would manifest that way. And several years ago, before I'm in Canada, but I moved to Canada from Texas. And when I was in Texas, the last few years, I was getting sick a lot. I was getting a lot of bladder infections, kidney infections, things that did not help the issue of trying to keep kidney function. And so we made some changes in our lives. We ended up moving back to Canada. My husband is Canadian, and things have gotten a lot better. But one of the big changes I made back in 2007 was going on disability. It was a process. It was not as hard and drawn out as it seems like most people's is. I filled out the paperwork myself. My doctor signed off on whatever they needed to sign off on. I sent it in. I believe in May, and in August I got my first payment, which people looked at me like, are you serious? Usually there's a refusal, a reapplication, a refusal, and maybe you end up going before a judge, lawyers, and I didn't do any of that. So my thing is, exactly how crazy do these people think I am that they just whisk it through? But it was one of the things that brought home that I actually am ill, which is hard for most people to deal with, especially when I hadn't really been ill. I was sick here and there, but to really think of having a chronic illness, and in my case a chronic mental illness and a chronic physical illness, and that's been difficult. Most of the time I'm pretty upbeat about it. You know, I make a lot of little silly jokes and I'm goofy, but I'm also, sometimes it really makes me depressed. You know, when I see the dishes pile up and I can't do them all, I'm not finishing them. I put in some dishes, I soak those evil ones, then I finish up the ones that I had put in 20 minutes ago. So this is my soaking the evil process. And usually by the end of the day, my husband can come home and I'm like, hey, I did the dishes, or I did most of them. And he's good with that. Having a partner who is good with things like, I did the dishes, but I didn't sleep before, and the bathroom's looking pretty bad. He's like, you do what you do when you have energy, when you have time. Sometimes he helps me. Bless his heart, he's not the most helpful when it comes to cleaning, because what I think of as clean and what he thinks of as clean are not always the same, which is pretty common, I think, between men and women generally. But he does try, and he's not harsh about anything that I do. He's one of the most understanding and sweetest people, and I must say that whatever I've had to deal with in life, I completely lucked out with him. He makes me smile. I am wearing a ginormous onesie because I'm a big baby, and they're really comfortable. There's nothing binding on my waist, so hurting my belly. They're, you know, very blousy and cute. I mean, this even has a little trapdoor thing, which I thought was adorable. So, yeah, that is today's in the life. Today's day is dishes and having a belly and learning to sew, and I don't know. I'm being kind of random because I don't know what is of interest to other people. I tend to be like, oh yeah, my life is pretty dull. And then other people sometimes go, no, it's really not. And I'm looking at them kind of crazy because I'm like, how? But on the other hand, I am nosy and I like other people's stories. So I'm trying to put out my story because maybe somebody would enjoy that. Hey, thank you so much. And I'll be back eventually. Bye.